Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me add my words of welcome. Three true friends of the subcommittee, and I know I've worked with each of you all and developed what I would describe as a trusted working relationship, indeed a friendship, and I'm grateful for that, and I know the subcommittee is grateful for the work that you do, the dedication for the future of our Navy. And I want to say just a personal word of thanks for visiting Northeast Florida, both of you, Admiral Greenert and Secretary Mabus. I know you were in Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia over the last couple of weeks, and you know how Navy-friendly those communities are, and I want you to know it's a big deal when you all take the time to not only visit the men and women in uniform, but the communities that support them, and that gives them a sense of where your commitment is to the future of the Navy. One of the things I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, we've worked on aircraft, we've worked on ships, we've worked on submarines, but I must say when I saw the proposed budget, it raised some questions about some of the programs that we worked on, like the P-8 Poseidon program, where 8 aircraft are being dropped, the E-2D Hawkeye, Advanced Hawkeye, one of those is being dropped. When you look at how we're going to replace the Ohio-class submarines, what are we going to do about pre-positioning ships that the Marines have, what about the amphibs? Questions about that, but our chairman runs a pretty tight ship, so we don't have time to talk about all of that, but I would like to continue that conversation as we develop the subcommittee final work. But I would like to talk about just the heart and soul of the Navy, and that's ships. And the first question comes, Secretary Mabus, when you sent up the budget, you also sent up a new way to count ships. And for the first time that I know of, you're going to count ships that haven't been counted as part of the count. And I know the Navy always has a problem making sure that we keep our ship count up because numbers matter. We talk about that. And so when you count ships you haven't counted before, then you get to increase the size of the fleet without going out and buying a new ship. And I guess at a time when there's a talk about decommissioning an aircraft carrier, there's talk about laying up cruisers, skeptical people might say, is this just a coincidence that you decided you were going to count ships that you didn't count before, while maybe that takes some of the attention away from some of the other things that are going on? So I guess my first question, just common sense, what drove you, what goes behind that decision to decide to count ships like, I guess, a hospital ship that hadn't been counted as part of that battle group or battle force? What went into that thinking?
Well, first, Congressman Crenshaw, we talked about this last year, and the Navy always takes a look at how we do our ship counts, and we've changed it several times over the past decade or so. The short answer to why we made this change was it was the ships that were requested by combat commanders. So ships that were requested to be forward deployed. And we've also taken some ships out in this count. And two examples are we've taken mine countermeasure ships that are not forward deployed out of the count. We've put patrol craft that are forward deployed that have been up armored and up gunned and are now on patrol in particularly the Arabian Gulf onto this because this is requested by the combat commander. And one of the things I told this committee last year was that if we did this, we were going to be completely transparent. So when you get the 30-year shipbuilding plan, you're going to get the old counting rules and the new counting rules. And when I say we're going to get the fleet to 300 ships, I'm using the old counting rules.
Well, let me just, like, for instance, I want to ask you about the cruisers because there's also in the budget a proposal to I guess lay up, I don't know exactly what that means, but lay up 11 cruisers, and I guess they'll still be counted. But here's the question: for the last 2 years, the Navy said we're going to decommission 7 cruisers, and this subcommittee, trying to be cost efficient, have said common sense will tell you if you got some ships that have useful life remaining, then maybe rather than decommission them, it might be wise to modernize them, upgrade them, and then they'd stay in the fleet. And as you know, we put that in our appropriations bill and said, do that. And this year it was kind of a surprise when we say you should modernize them. Then I guess this year, at least you didn't say we're going to decommission them, but you did say we're going to take 11 cruisers and put them in what's called, I guess, a layup and kind of a phased modernization. As I understand it, that the average time would be 9 years. Some would be modernized in 5 years, some would be modernized in 12 years. But if you're going to phase in this modernization, it seems like that's a long time to have these cruisers out of service. I assume they're tied up somewhere with no crew and the weapon systems, et cetera. So I guess my question is that, you think, the best use of the money that we appropriated? And I guess what assurance does this subcommittee have that it's almost like one foot in the grave? You say, we're not, at least we didn't say we're going to decommission them, but you did say we're going to phase in the modernization that might take on average 9 years. So my concern, I think the concern of the subcommittee might be that is this kind of a way to phase in the decommissioning as opposed to actually modernize them, upgrade them.
Yeah, we need some answers here. This is a focal point, and maybe Mr. Crenshaw might not have any more time, but before we leave here, we need to know how we're going to have this forward presence with a lot of ghost ships that are part of that count.
Well, first, the short answer to your last question is no. It's not a way to try to decommission. Second, we're profoundly grateful to this committee and to Congress for giving us the funds to modernize these cruisers. When we looked at the cruisers that we needed, we need 11 operational at any one time. The most effective way to keep 11 in the fleet, because if we simply modernized all the ships today, all those cruisers would leave the fleet. All 22 of them would leave the fleet in the late 2020s. By doing this phase modernization, we'll keep those cruisers in the fleet into the 2040s. And we're not laying them up. We are modernizing them. And I know that there's that the concern is that this is just a way for us to decommission them. This is the first step down that road. We'll work with this committee in any way you want us to reassure you that that is not the case. In fact, our plan is to buy all the materials to do the hull mechanical and electrical modernization for these cruisers up front, so that the ships begin to be modernized. Second, we're not taking them out from under the control of the Chief of Naval Operations. Unlike a ship which is laid up, which goes under the control of the shipyard, C&O has command of these ships and can bring them back in if there's a national emergency that requires that. Third, the reason that we are phasing it the way we are doing it is as the cruisers that remain forward deployed, operational, retire as they reach the end of their lives. The ones we're modernizing have the most life left in them. As the ones that reach the end of their lives, we're doing a one-for-one. As one retires, one comes out of modernization, so that we keep the same number.